Okay, today is 10th of July 2015. Let's begin with the economic calendar. Today is Friday, so yesterday it finished the 30-year bond auction from US. Today the important ones are the employment change for Canadian. It's minus 6.4k. What does this mean? It's supposed to be good for Canadian. Right, so it means that they were expecting, so this positive number from last month is around 58,000 were employed in the last month. So they were forecasting of less employment. In a way, doesn't mean layoff. But why this is green is because it's less than the forecasted. So they were expecting more unemployment, but it turns out less, so which is good for the currency. The unemployment rate is 6.8%, so it's less than the forecasted, which is good, but it's still same with the previous month. Yellen spoke today at what event? The City Club of Cleveland. Wonder what she said today. Pound trade balance minus 8 billion pounds, which means it's importing more and exporting less in the tune of minus 8 billion pounds. But it's less than forecasted. It's less than from previous month, which is good for pound. Otherwise, the yen producer price index is minus 2.4, which is bad for yen. This may be important for Germans. WPI stands for wholesale price index. It's at minus 0.2%. Italian industrial production is at minus 0.9%, which is good for euro. France is a bit down at 0.4%, but it still went up from last month of minus 0.8%. Let's see what's coming up during the weekend and next week Monday. On the weekend, tomorrow and on Sunday, the Eurogroup meetings is still going on. I read somewhere today that the Greece proposal has been accepted, so that's good news from Greece. What's FPI? Food price index of kiwi is coming out on Sunday. Chinese trade balance on Monday and Eurogroup meetings on Monday. Otherwise, there doesn't seem to be much of big news coming out on Monday. So let's get on and look at the Financial Times. Right, so first thing is Euro bounced. The commodity currencies bounced, which are Aussie, Kiwi, and Canadian. So dollar Canadian must have fallen down. Aussie dollar must have gone up, and Kiwi dollar must have gone up as well. Any other currency news? So Euro rallies. Europe is a falling knife you can catch. This is from yesterday. Right, comment from Yellen rate hike to come later this year. Right, that's important. Oil price could fall further from IEA. I saw a similar news today morning. where it looks like the oil price may fall down further because of the disequilibrium between supply and demand. Or the other way to put this is the demand will not rise for a substantial amount of time. Shanghai has best 2-day run in 7 years. Right now let's look at the main news. Yellen reiterates case for 2015 rate rise. Important. Greek proposal draws praise from Paris. This is good news for Greece and Euro. Oil price could fall further from IEA, International Energy Association, I think. Euro rallies on Greek offer. Wall Street is up as well. I saw somewhere today that Dow Jones went up by 200 points today on good news from Greece and China. Greece proposal draws praise from Paris. Right, now let's look at Bloomberg and see if there's anything of importance. The stock market in Europe is up 3%. FTSE is at 1 point something percent. DAX Germany is up 2 point something, almost 3%. The French one is up almost 3%. Brent didn't move much. Now, so Yellen is still speaking, it seems. You see? Yep. It began at 5:30 p.m. It's only 6 o'clock. Anyways, markets love the Greek proposal. No wonder Euro will appreciate today. Oil heads for second weekly lows. Oil is still falling. This is the UBS trader that's on trial for the LIBOR rate rigging. Ruble advances as Morgan Stanley sees softer landing. Which means ruble is appreciating. Ruble was falling down because of the crisis from last year, so it looks like it's getting stabilized now. Euro climbs most in 2 years versus yen. The euro must have spiked up today. UK trade deficits narrows the least since 2013, so it's referring to the this trade balance, I think. London, well, this was one of those rogue traders from last couple of years ago. Global growth accelerating amidst faint whiff of panic. So there is some trouble, signs of trouble, but in general the global growth is growing, it seems. Norway krone gains as inflation jump. So if inflation of a country raises, the currency tends to raise as well. Now why would inflation gain in Norway? Because there must have been some kind of QE going on in Norway, in the sense that the Norwegian central bank, I think, had been cutting rates for the last couple of months. So there's more money circulating in the economy, so which causes inflation. Right. I saw a news today about iron ore today, which is that iron ore appreciated 10% yesterday, Thursday. Here again, IEA says oil prices may fall even further before supply fades in 2016. Another similar news we saw from yesterday, the Greek banks. There would be some kind of restructuring in the Greek banks, even with the bailouts from the creditors. So the decision on Greek is still not finalized yet, so probable Friday means sometime by the end of today it will come out. The news with the LIBOR rigging is still going on. Greek is asking for almost $60 billion bailout. But the thing to note is, looks like Greece is bowing down to the demands of the creditors. It's almost like a two-way street. So now both have to save face somehow, because Tsipras called for referendum and referendum went his way. Now he can't be too tough now on negotiating with the creditors now. He has to show some leniency now, I think. And for some reason the crisis in China is bigger compared to the Greece. So the Nikkei must be raising today, the Japanese stocks raise. It's amazing how the whole world economy seems to be so interlinked. Would you lend Greece $60 billion again? Now the funny thing with this story is, when Greece is being loaned $60 billion, most of the money it seems will go back again to the Germans and French banks who initially loaned the money in the first place. Interesting. This seems like a case of the good cop and the bad cop. So France is behaving like a good cop and Germany is behaving like the bad cop, and Greece is the criminal being questioned. This must be referring to how West Germany's debt was written off after Second World War as part of the Great Marshall Plan by the creditors, because the Germans, so the feeling was that West Germany, or the Germans, would be given a chance to get back on its feet again. And now this must be implying that Germany should do something similar to Greece, which is give Greece a chance to stand back up on its feet and not be so tough. Let's look at the markets in general. I think this would be very similar. So as you see today, the Dow Jones went up by 200 points, 1 point something percent. S&P went up, crude is alright, gold is alright, euro dollar spiked up today, almost 1%, it's 100 pips. Dollar yen went up by more than 1%. There's a chance that the US rate may increase this year, September. So now it's July, August, September, so two months to go. We have seen Dow Jones, S&P, Nasdaq, FTSE, Nikkei, Hang Seng, Aussie. Let's look at currencies briefly. Euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen is the one which increased by more than 1%. Aussie dollar is still falling. Dollar Canadian gained a bit. I haven't looked at dollar Swissy for a while now. Let's look at bonds. The important ones: the US 2-year bond 0.64%, the US 10-year 2.4%. We saw the auction of US 30-year bond at 3.08% from yesterday. UK 10-year around 2%. So the thing to note here is the longer the duration of the bond, the higher the yield. Germany 10-year 0.89%, Japan is at 0.4%. This was a concern, this was a news for concern when Draghi said he doesn't know how to take it forward. It seemed like he was at a limit of what he can do. But looks like the Greece crisis is abating as of now. We saw this yesterday. So even if Greece exits from Euro, it will not stop Fed from raising rates. But now that the Greece crisis seems to be abating and Yellen saying there's a chance of a Fed rate rise this year, I think the probability of a Fed rate rise in September is increasing. This is a chart of Chinese Shanghai Index, Shanghai Composite. It had been falling down since 15th of June, so mid last month. So the plunge lasted for 3 weeks. Here again, another Fed has decided to start raising rates. If a UBS guy says Greece is still likely to remain in Euro, it mostly will be. This was from Draghi. I don't know. This time it's really difficult. But who knows? This guy is supposed to be a great political player in the sense that he knows how to play the politics as well. So he's not just a financier or a banker, but some guy who has reached the top of an institution like ECB, knows how to play politics. So when he says stuff like this, we shouldn't take it literally. Canada job loss in June ratifies faltering. Let's look at this again. There's a job loss, so this must be meaning to job loss, so it's less than expected. So 6,400 job loss last month. In June, now it's July. So it looks like a lot of people are shorting the New York Stock Exchange around this many contracts, it seems. And S&P index as well. Now be wary of S&P, because when we saw the chart just the last few days, it looks like S&P 500 maybe the beginning of a downtrend. And I think that's it from the news for today. Let's take a quick look at CNN. Are China stocks out of tailspin? Looks like maybe. I remember reading somewhere that people are buying stuff and looking to buy in the Chinese market now because they think it's a good bargain. How cash crunch brought Greeks to the knees. It looks like CNN is not really meant much for our currencies and markets. So now let's look at the charts. So as we saw today, the euro dollar spiked up. Spiked up, so it's around the 50 EMA. So this is a typical case where you don't know which way the trend is going to be. It could either fall down or go up. Even in the weekly chart, it's stagnating around the 20 and 50, 20 and 5 EMA. The monthly, it's way down around the 5 EMA. Look at pound dollar. Pound dollar, this may be a correction, but today it spiked up. So the next few days it could try to reach the 220 and fall back again, or it could go up again, because if you look at the long-term trend, this was a low, this was a low, and then it may not touch this. This may be another low. Now this is a high, this is a high. So it looks like pound dollar is generally in an uptrend now. So if you're having too many short positions, we should be careful around this area. The weekly looks like it's bouncing up from the 20 EMA. So it could stagnate around the 20 and 50 and 200. Alright, let's look at dollar yen. Dollar yen spiked up today. The weekly, it looks like it bounced up from 20, but is this a false bounce or beginning of another uptrend? We're not sure yet. Dollar Canadian didn't move much. It has remained the same for the last few days. This was, I think, very similar to the Nikkei and dollar yen before it fell down. So I think dollar Canadian is due for a correction. Aussie dollar has stayed around the same. Kiwi dollar, it has stayed around the same from yesterday and fell down a bit. But it has fallen down so nicely since around the beginning of April, now and end of April, so for 2 months. Euro yen spiked up today, it seems. Yep. And pound yen must also have spiked up today. Because pound dollar was up and dollar yen was up, so it's almost like you will have double amplifications in pound yen. And euro Canadian euro still spiked up today. Euro Canadian pair spiked up, so it may be beginning of another uptrend. How did pound Canadian spiked up too? So even though the dollar Canadian pair didn't move much, Euro Canadian and pound Canadian spiked up. So this may be caused because of the spike up in euro dollar and pound dollar. This is a classic case where this was a sort of correction and not the change, not the beginning of the trend change. Euro Aussie, wow, Euro Aussie shot up as well. Pound Aussie too, it seems, because pound and euro shot up. If there's a trend, don't fight against the trend. Now let's look at Nikkei. Today it went up. There's a very big correlation between how Nikkei moves and how dollar yen moves. It seems to almost mirror each other. Not exactly, but in a very big way. S&P 500, it shot up from 200 EMA. Now we saw that a lot of people are beginning to short S&P and New York Stock Exchange. Well, they might be proved right soon. If this don't go back up above 50, I think this may be beginning of a downtrend. So which could mean that the US market may be about to be falling down. So just now the Chinese market was falling down. Will it translate into the US market falling down? Right, the FTSE was up today. It looks like it's very similar to how pound moves and FTSE moves, is it? Yesterday pound spiked up and FTSE spiked up too. The dollar index. So this is one of those doji, I think. So there may be some correction due, I think. And now oil was supposed to be falling down, but it didn't actually. It's kind of maybe taking a breath before it starts falling down again, maybe. And Brent, similar. And lastly, gold has been stagnating. There's not much movement in gold. It looks like there's a very nice support around 1500, 1150. Yeah, around 1150. And I think that's it for today for the analysis, and we will come back again tomorrow.